Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. This is the Affirmations for Self-Healing webinar with the monks. And I used to say with the monks in Kandala, we are in Kandala right now, but soon we won't be. So it's safer probably just to say with the monks. Anyways, welcome. And this is going to be a good session. I feel this topic is a really nice one. It's about positive thinking. And so we're doing a little experiment, at least it's an experiment for me. I don't know if other monks have done this in the past, but if you look in the chat right now, you can click down there in the chat and you see that Ramesh has just posted the affirmation, the reading I will do. I think it just makes it easier sometimes if you can read along or know exactly what I'm saying. So I'm going to get started, and I'll start with this reading, today's reading, and the topic is positive thinking. And so here we go. And you can follow along in the chat if you like. As we think, so we become. And as we think, so our lives and circumstances become also. From the divine consciousness come answers to all our questions and solutions to all our problems. It is in lower consciousness that confusion reigns. Think positively in everything you do, for in that way you help to attune yourself to the divine flow. One who is inwardly in tune with grace finds all things harmonious and beneficial being attracted to him. Positive thinking, combined with the sense of divine attunement, is never presumptuous, for it draws its power not from the ego, but from the consciousness of God's joy within. So now we'll do the affirmation together. So please affirm with me, this starting first in a loud voice. My outer life is a reflection of my inner thoughts. Filled with the joy of God, I express His joy and harmony in everything I do. Now in a normal voice, my outer life is a reflection of my inner thoughts. Filled with the joy of God, I express His joy and harmony in everything I do. And now in a whisper, my outer life is a reflection of my inner thoughts. Filled with the joy of God, I express His joy and harmony in everything I do. And now mentally, my outer life is a reflection of my inner thoughts. Filled with the joy of God, I express His joy and harmony in everything I do. One more time mentally, this time taking it deep into the superconscious mind. My outer life is a reflection of my inner thoughts. Filled with the joy of God, I express His joy and harmony in everything I do. And repeat along with me mentally Swamiji's prayer. Problems cannot exist, Lord, whenever Thou art near. Give me strength always to hold Thee in my heart. So I'll now hand it over to Brahmachari Ramesh.
Welcome everyone. It's nice to be part of this webinar and such beautiful reading and such beautiful affirmation. And it's rare to see such quality words and energy in one place, in one book. We need to be very much grateful to Swami Kriyananda for giving us that. Affirmations are a very powerful way to develop qualities which we want, and also effective and quicker rather than toiling day by day to do it without affirmation. So I would share some things about the affirmation which we have selected today. of positive thinking. And I'm sure every one of you in current day and age have heard about that whatever we think we become, that your thoughts should be good. And it's so much more common nowadays than it used to be before. But it is true that whatever we think, whatever our feelings are, whatever we have going on in our mind all day, it makes us the person who we are, and the situations, the circumstances around us reflect what is going on inside us. So if we see a person who is positive, joyful, enthusiastic, always on the get-go, full of energy, doing things with joy and peace, there is good thoughts in his mind most of the time, because you can't fake being all those things without having that inside also. But if you see someone who is complaining, maybe say 80% of the time we are giving 20% of freedom there, but 80% of the time there is going on negative things in his mind, he will tend to attract negative situations. It happens. We can experiment and see in our own experiences that maybe our thoughts, whatever are going on, they are affecting us and others around us. That is why this reading and the affirmation to make us get into how to think positively. Uh, how does this happen? Positive thinking. And how does this work? The great Guru Paramahansa Yogananda gave us this in one sentence in his autobiography of a yogi, that thoughts are universally rooted and not individually. And which in one line he has like literally changed how we understand thoughts and thinking. And so what does it mean that thoughts, whatever our thoughts are there in our mind, it's not ours. It's something we are receiving from the universe and something which we are taking in from outside. So, for example, it's like a radio. He gave the example that we are like a radio receiver, and we tune or attune to a certain stream of consciousness. And if that stream of consciousness is positive, its energy is positive, the thoughts we are receiving are also positive. If it is something artistic, the thoughts we are receiving are also artistic. If it is negative, complaining, that's what we are receiving in our mind. So there you have it, that whatever consciousness you are in right now, it is more or less related to what you are tuning in consciously or unconsciously. Better if you do it consciously, it takes energy, but it's worthwhile. Another way to know, attract these thoughts is that we put out ourselves that energy and consciousness. Like a magnet attracts another magnet, we can become that magnet of positive thoughts, positive energy, peace, joy, all the qualities that we want to express and to experience within ourselves. If we think about them, it helps us. First, habit can make us think negative thoughts, critical thoughts, and complaining all the time. That's habit. But in any good endeavor and to achieve any good thing, we have to go against the flows of habit so that we can bring something positive in ourselves. I have an experience to relate. I have tried this positive thinking experiment many times before I started to meditate, after I started to meditate, in different ways. And there are a lot of fun things you can do with it, and take it as a joyful experiment, like take a simple thing and try to see, if you think positively, simple situation, if you think positively, how does it change you, how does it affect others, and so on and so forth. And it's important to try, because without it, just reading, just listening, we don't understand truly or learn truly. So an experience which I wanted to share was, a few years ago I was studying computer engineering in a college. I had a subject, and there was an exam. Like for all students, there is the exam next day and the day before. They are contemplating life and life struggles. So I was studying this subject called cryptography and system security. It's like an online cyber security subject. So I had little time and I had a lot to study and understand. And so I said, let's try positive thinking and the power of affirmation to attract knowledge and thoughts. So I affirmed, little bit inspired from Swami Kriyananda's own experiences. I affirmed that I am an expert cybersecurity person, that I know it all completely. I affirmed it with energy, with positivity, with joy, without actually that being the reality, but I affirmed it as an experiment and as something to attract. And what was the result of that? The result was when I started to study after that, I didn't just say that and went to sleep or something like that. I also started to understand the subject after affirming that. And once I started doing that, I saw that there were certain concepts which in a normal way to study might have taken a long time. But since I affirmed that I already knew those things and I read that, the understanding, the concepts, the knowledge came very easily to me. It's as if I was able to open a channel of that consciousness to enter me and to learn those subjects, to express those subjects. Well, the exam went very well. So that experiment worked well. So you can try this in smaller circumstances too, and see, have fun with it. It's very effective and beautiful. And who doesn't want to have positive thoughts? It's not you are not losing anything. You are losing your complaints and worries. But well, who wants them? And having positive thoughts, you can imagine it like your mind like a cupboard, and if you store in your cupboard beautiful things, beautiful clothes, and beautiful books, and if you open it and see every day, if you see beautiful things, you will be happy to see those things. But if you store in your cupboard all the things you don't like, negative thoughts, negative that broken pieces of your favorite things, or complaints, or worries, and negative books, all the things you don't like, and you open it every day and look into it, you wouldn't like it, and that wouldn't make your day better as well. There is a place for constructive criticism and practicality, but that doesn't mean we have to keep being looking at those. As the saying said, reading said, that from divine consciousness comes the answers to all our questions and solutions to all our problems. Once we know the question, the problem, the next thing is to find the solution positively without being negative. One more thing from the great master Paramahansa Yogananda was, he said how to achieve anything we want to do, and this relates to positive thinking as well. Again, in one line, he said, desire plus energy directed towards fulfillment gives us the thing which we are desiring. So, two things: desire, which will come into how we are thinking positively. Putting it into energy is the important part, because if we forget to just do anything after thinking, it may not happen unless you have intense concentration and freedom to be away from your likes and dislikes. If you are in tune with God and with immense concentration, you can do it. But there has to be a flow of energy also. Thought, energy, action all together helps us achieve what we want to do. Hence, desire plus energy directed towards fulfillment. With positive thinking, with joy, with happiness, there is nothing to lose, nothing to worry, and it will make us happy. And Swami Kriyananda said about positivity is that he was said by Paramahansa Yogananda ji to be practical in the idealism. Don't affirm something which you cannot achieve. You need to affirm something which is beyond your reach, but not too beyond your reach. He said, if you want to be positive, do it with one something a step up of you. Like if I am eating is a very bad example, but if I'm able to eat only 5 cookies today, I can affirm with positivity that I will eat 7 cookies tomorrow, rather than saying I will affirm 500 cookies tomorrow. It may not be realistic, and our mind and our soul may not be able to even believe also, because that is an important part of positivity, that we do something in practicality with the reality, but also something which pushes us to be better and positive. With that, I will pass on to Brahmachari Jemal.
Thank you, Ramesh. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. Um, Ramesh gave us so many different things to think about here on this topic of positive thinking. And I probably am just going to reiterate many things that he said. One of them is that you also have to think about this and put energy into it and try it yourself. Um, I have given this particular topic a lot of thought over the years and have wanted to understand deeply exactly how this principle works so that I can manifest greater joy and fun and nice things outwardly, since we have to live in this outer world. And yet sometimes we find that even though we're doing a pretty good job of thinking a particular thought, it hasn't manifested outwardly like that. And I would often wonder why. And the reason can be, number one, that that little bit of static in the back of our mind, it can have more power than the forward energy we're trying to give with the positive thoughts. But as we become aware of this internal conflict within ourselves, manifesting as thoughts and then further as energy and then this material world, we can start to get rid of some of that static, and we really can have a focused mind and be able to manifest what's needed. I'll tell a story. So a friend of mine asked Swami Kriyananda about a story that's in the book The New Path, which you can read for free online, where someone told Paramahansa Yogananda it's going to take you 20 years to raise all this money in order to buy Mount Washington. And Master said, 20 years for those who think 20 years, I don't know, like 2 years for those who think 2 years, and 2 months for those who think 2 months or something. And Master raised the money in 2 months. The time frame might be a little off, but the point of the story is right on. And he raised the money. And so my friend asked Swamiji, well, how far can you take that? Could you say 2 weeks for those who think 2 weeks, 2 minutes, 2 seconds? And Swamiji said, it also has to be in tune with God's will. And that's very important, coming back to, if we wonder why aren't we exactly manifesting everything that we want to be manifesting here? Well, is it in tune with God's will? Because ultimately that's what's going to be manifested outwardly on this material plane, is God's will. And ultimately God's will is for the good of everybody and is a positive thing and is harmonious. And perhaps we're visualizing something and we're putting out all of these thoughts and we think it's a positive thing, and maybe it's very good for us, but maybe it's not so good for somebody else, and so it's not going to be allowed to come into creation. So, and if you want to go even deeper into this subject, which I feel is a lot of fun, you really have to study magnetism. And so I urge you to study everything that Swamiji said about magnetism, everything that Master said about magnetism, and you can start to get to the root of positive thinking and how this works. Now you see, this is actually one of the things that made me come on the spiritual path. A friend of mine was on some other path, or God knows what. He went to some religious seminar or something, and somebody told him that thoughts are, you can create whatever you want with your thoughts, and that this outer world is a reflection of your inner thoughts. And he came and he told me. And those words that he said, they really hit me, as the saying goes, like a ton of bricks. Because I realized, well, no wonder my life is an absolute mess. If I'm creating everything with my mind, then, well, my mind's an absolute mess. So maybe I need to get my mind together. By the way, we're not just creating with our mind. That it's like, say, a guitar string and a sounding board. And so the guitar string can be our mind, and so we can learn how to play that and play the different notes. That sounding board is the universe, is God, and it has to be in harmony with that. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So we're not teaching you how to control the universe today by only controlling your mind. That there's more to it, that it has to be in tune with God. I already said that, but it's an important thing. Anyway, so back to my little story, I realized that, well, outwardly things are a mess, inwardly things are a mess. If I can change things inwardly, then I'll just have a solution here and everything will be perfect. And so I realized I needed to start meditating, and so I did, but then I felt even worse because I couldn't sit there for 3 minutes and do Hong Sa. I just had every thought you could ever imagine, and sometimes it felt like even worse thoughts were creeping their way in there, that normally things I wouldn't think about when I was trying to gain control of my mind. And I realized what a Herculean task it is to gain control of our mind, and that I needed help. And that I needed to meet people who knew what they were doing with this and ask them how they did it. And ultimately, I realized that I needed a much greater power than my own power to learn how to control my mind. As Ramesh said, that these thoughts, that they are universally rooted. And so we have kind of this reservoir of infinite power in terms of thoughts, but learning how to tune out the ones that we don't want to tune out and tune into the ones that we do want to tune into, this is a very big game. And that I realized I needed help. And ultimately that help is the guru. And the guru can come in and teach us how to take control of our mind, because it's not really our mind. This is the most fascinating thing. That when you really start diving deep in and what is mind exactly, that at the end of the day, if you really develop a deep relationship with the guru, he will be putting the thoughts in your mind. And it's a fascinating thing. It's one of these small lines in Autobiography of a Yogi where Master Mahashaya is saying that he doesn't consider his thoughts his own. That every thought that comes in, he's grateful for his master of putting that into his mind. And this becomes a very deep thing as we study and practice, and it's worth diving deep into that. One of the final things I want to say is, once I did start practicing Hong Sau and a little bit of control did start to come, that really can help when we go and we're not necessarily sitting and practicing meditation in our meditation room, but when we're out in the day navigating this world, a higher awareness comes, as Ramesh was saying, that we have to start to become conscious of the thoughts that are rolling around, and we have a subconscious mind, we have a conscious mind. And before we learn meditation, many of us are just on autopilot. And most of the time it's just subconscious, and we're not even really aware of what we're doing. We might be eating idli, and we're thinking, oh, if only I was eating pizza, then I'd be happy. And subconsciously, all of these thoughts are going on, and it's just a mess. But as we learn to meditate, we start to become highly aware, and we can learn to live in the moment, and we can learn to take control of the subconscious mind and use it as we want. And that's what we're doing here this evening. That's why we do these affirmations. And we start using the word programming is a little scary, because we think, should I really program my mind? Do I need a degree in that first, like Ramesh has in this computer science kind of stuff? But we can learn how to, you don't have to be scared of this, but we can learn how to take control of the subconscious mind and use it and work with it like a friend. It's not really something to be bossed around. It doesn't like that so much, but we can learn how to become more aware and put all of the different parts of our being, the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, ultimately the superconscious mind. We can learn how to put them all together in a harmonious way that works, and then be what we are in that stage then is just a channel for Master, for God's harmonious thoughts, and for His joy to come into the world. And if we're not attached to our own thoughts, and what I want, and we can just be living more for God, and what do you want? What thoughts do you want to come into here? And this is your canvas, you paint it as you like, then we can live in great, great joy and great, great harmony. So I'm going to turn this back over to Ramesh.
Okay, so we are at the part of the session where we do the affirmation and the reading and the prayer more deeply. So as Jamal did in the beginning, the affirmation he did 5 times in 5 different ways. So now we will do each of those 5 times into 3. So I will do the reading. Again, I have posted it in the chat place, so you can also read along with us. So the reading goes, as we think, so we become. And as we think, so our lives and circumstances become also. From the divine consciousness comes answers to all our questions and solutions to all our problems. It is in lower consciousness that confusion reigns. Think positively in everything you do, for in that way you help to attune yourself to the divine flow. One who is inwardly in tune with grace finds all things harmonious and beneficial being attracted to him. Positive thinking, combined with a sense of divine attunement, is never presumptuous, for it draws its power not from the ego, but from the consciousness of God's joy within. Now, let us affirm together the first time out loud. My outer life is a reflection of my inner thoughts. Filled with the joy of God, I express His joy and harmony in everything I do. My outer life is a reflection of my inner thoughts. Filled with the joy of God, I express His joy and harmony in everything I do. My outer life is a reflection of my inner thoughts. Filled with the joy of God, I express His joy and harmony in everything I do. Now, in a normal voice, 3 times. My outer life is a reflection of my inner thoughts. Filled with the joy of God, I express His joy and harmony in everything I do. My outer life is a reflection of my inner thoughts. Filled with the joy of God, I express His joy and harmony in everything I do. My outer life is a reflection of my inner thoughts. Filled with the joy of God, I express His joy and harmony in everything I do. Now, whispering, my outer life is a reflection of my inner thoughts. Filled with the joy of God, I express His joy and harmony in everything I do. My outer life is a reflection of my inner thoughts. Filled with the joy of God, I express His joy and harmony in everything I do. Now, mentally, my outer life is a reflection of my inner thoughts. Filled with the joy of God, I express His joy and harmony in everything I do. My outer life is a reflection of my inner thoughts. Filled with the joy of God, express His joy and harmony in everything I do. My outer life is a reflection of my inner thoughts. Filled with the joy of God, I express His joy and harmony in everything I do. Now the last 3 times, bring it to your superconscious mind. Try to focus here. My outer life is a reflection of my inner thoughts. Filled with the joy of God, I express His joy and harmony in everything I do. My outer life is a reflection of my inner thoughts. Filled with the joy of God, I express His joy and harmony in everything I do. My outer life is a reflection of my inner thoughts. Filled with the joy of God, I express His joy and harmony in everything I do. Let us do this prayer mentally with awareness. Problems cannot exist, Lord, whenever Thou art near. Give me strength always to hold Thee in my heart. Om. Thank you, dear friends, for joining us today in doing this brilliant affirmation given by Swami Kriyananda. each of these qualities can help us, as the book suggests, in self-healing and growing. So we will meet again the next week, next evening at the same time with another affirmation. And spoilers, the next one is humor. Boom.